Nice. How are you?
I'm fine, mate. How are you? And you,
Very.
Luigi. Good to see you.
Hello, gents. How you guys doing?
Oh, great.
Yeah, good man.
Good.
Wonderful.
Great to be
Top of the
back
morning.
together again.
If you say so.
Well, it is for
I
me
know
and
so.
Steve. It is for me and Steve. We mute you normally. We don't normally tell
Good.
you, but we normally mute your stuff.
That's good. PG, PG 33.
Cool. Okay.
So we're going to have a look at the characteristics of God's teachers, the next section in the manual. And because it's such a big, detailed section, we've all talked about just focusing on the very first part, really, which is trust and even the development of trust. That section, we're going to just put that on the back burner till next time because there's plenty for us to go through with the first paragraph and the description of trust. Um, I do feel it would be remiss of me to not mention the wonderful David Dove Fishman when we're talking about trust because he beautifully articulates the fact that trust is really the only aspect out of these characteristics that we need to develop, and everything else is like an inherent quality of the right mindedness that is our essential nature. And he also makes a wonderful point about teaching that we all know is like teaching as the descriptive term is used. The best way to develop that and expand upon it is to do the teaching itself because you are learning whilst teaching. And we know that a big part of what we've been talking about is this the lack of distinction really between teacher and learner. They're just words that get used for the sake of conversation, but really there is no difference. And I think it's perfectly highlighted when Dove says, if you want to become a better teacher, then teach, because you are essentially in the audience too. You are learning by talking and by listening and having to refine what you say by going over and over. And I know that's stuff that we've touched on in the other episodes. So beautiful thanks to Dove. Wonderful, wonderful guy. And again, you know, he's made it perfectly clear that there's a lot of people who came to him who you could say were not as far into the material as him. And yet, when he encouraged them to start teaching, then as he describes it, you know, they would go beyond him and they didn't need him. And I just think it's a wonderful testament to his lovely, humble character and his sharp intellect and take on the material, really. So thanks, Dove. We love you.
Yeah,
And
he does a lot of good stuff on TikTok. I
well, funnily
correspond with him
enough,
on there
you
occasionally.
you and Dove are the only two people I know who use TikTok, which is one of the most modern social media platforms, and you've got about 150 plus years between the two of you.
Yeah. Well, it puts it across a wide spectrum of the public. You see, TikTok is, I mean, it's a lot of them we're putting in front of, like on Facebook. I was sort of like preaching to the choir most of the time. Everybody on there was into Facebook who followed me. But when on TikTok, you get curious people
Yeah,
wanting to know what you're about, and you're gradually sort of pulling them in. And I've had a lot of success in that. I've had people interested in what I'm saying.
brilliant.
The TikTok is cool. Matter of fact, I thought when it was going to be shut down, like in America, that was the end of it, but it's still running. So, but I'm sort of running it down now because I'm determined to have my quiet time. I'm determined to go quiet, and if I keep posting stuff, I'm not going quiet. But I keep getting inspired by I am that. And I think that would make a good little video, that little point, and I keep making them and sticking them on TikTok. But not, at the moment, I'm determined, though I can't say I'm not going to get inspired, not to make any more for the time being because I want to have this
Well,
quiet.
Luigi's been trying to go quiet for ages, and it's not
It's very
working him
difficult for
over.
Luigi. Well, I'm
Yeah,
not
good
finding
luck
it
with
at
that.
all either, you know.
Good luck with
But
that. I've been
anyway,
trying to go quiet for the last 10 years. But again, that's the beautiful lesson. The minute you think you need to get rid of something, the minute you think you need to overcome something, that in itself becomes the obstacle because you move into resistance, and what you resist persists. And that's been an interesting lesson.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
for
I'm not
sure.
going to try and give up being angry or grumpy.
Well, it's a choice, isn't it, really? I mean, anger is a choice. So choose not to be grumpy. Today, I will not be grumpy.
I am full stop. God
I
is
am.
full stop.
I am he. I am.
Grumpy in
I am
brackets.
ungrumpy.
Brilliant. Let's have a look at this first chapter.
Okay, rock.
Okay, so the surface traits of God's teachers are not at all alike. They do not look alike to the body's eyes. They come from vastly different backgrounds. Their experiences of the world vary greatly, and their superficial personalities are quite distinct. Nor at the beginning stages of their functioning as teachers of God have they as yet acquired the deeper characteristics that will establish them as what they are. God gives special gifts to his teachers because they have a special role in his plan for atonement. Their specialness is, of course, only temporary, set in time as a means of leading out of time. These special gifts, born in the holy relationship toward which the teaching learning situation is geared, become characteristic of all teachers of God who have advanced in their own learning. In this respect, they are all alike. All differences among the sons of God are temporary. Nevertheless, in time, it can be said that the advanced teachers of God have the following characteristics. We will come to characteristic number one in a moment. The first thing that leapt off the page for me there had to be this mention of the fact that at the beginning stages of their functioning as teachers of God, they haven't acquired the deeper characteristics that will establish them as what they are. I think that's really purpose. Well, everything's purposeful, as we know, but in terms of implying that everything's already there, there's a process towards that deeper aspect of themselves, but the process, as we know, is already done, and it's the undoing in the belief that there needs to be a process. And yet, until we've removed that interference of God, it's like we haven't ramped up our potential to teach at the level that we will teach at once our understanding kicks in.
Well, well, when it says the specialness, of course, is only temporary, it gives special gifts to his teachers. I think the special gift, um, where am I? Second time. These special gifts are actually the first one being would be trust. I mean, like that's why trust is the first one in this list of attributes, characteristics. Because trust is absolutely imperative. Because really, it's what they used to call faith, isn't it? Like you got to have faith. You got to have trust. It's the same thing. Really, you got to trust yourself. And yourself is the source. So you got to trust within, and not just trust yourself. That's you can see where it's going in it. It's and the one about all differences among the sons of God are temporary. Like that part of what Luigi said about the little s
Mm.
earlier on there. Yeah, that was interesting. That wasn't. That's right. If it's the sons of God in that context, it's sons. Well, the way it's written, it says sons as we are still human. A difference between the sons of God, like the difference is because we're still not with God. So if we were with God, it should be a big S. It's being pernickety, but it's right on. But we all make mistakes, I suppose.
Apart
Yeah,
from me.
apart from you. Well done.
Thank you. I thought I did once, but I was wrong.
That's the nature of the beast.
Lou, I know you want to pick up on the following sentence. Why don't you dive into that?
Well, first and foremost, for me, A Course in Miracles is addressing the dreaming Son of God. So it's talking, it's the right mind infused, joined with the memory voice for God, calling the dreaming mind to awaken to self. So all of it is addressing us at the level of mind, except in this section. In this section, it is addressing the characters in the dream who think they have a purpose and a function and a purpose and are looking for meaning in a meaningless world. So it's addressing us as characters in our own dreaming mind. And it's trying to draw attention to this is about function over form. So don't pay attention to the form of the teachers in terms of physical appearances.
Mm.
It's not just someone who's decided they are formally teaching A Course in Miracles. Everyone and anyone can be your teacher because everyone is teaching and learning all the time. Learning is just remembering, true learning. And and importantly, the point I'm trying to make is that it's addressing us as characters, or as in the Tao or in Vedanta, the jiva, the character, the character who thinks, the character who thinks it senses and feels and perceives. And it's saying to the character, the the students and teachers, it's saying, pay attention to the function, pay attention to the message, not the form of the teacher. That's primarily the first message in this text. Um, the deeper characteristics is taking us to the center of the bicycle wheel, taking us all to the hub, because at the core of the hub, the characteristics are the same, identical. In essence, it's trying to describe our truest essential nature, the essence of our being, spirit, as opposed to the characteristics of the body mind persona.
Nice.
Yeah.
The other thing that's important here, and again, it's probably Helen's fault because
Guilty.
the voice doesn't make mistakes. I can hear Helen complaining in my ear now. Um, um, it's addressing us as jivas and trying to humanize the whole thing so we can grip onto it, because this is a vital section uh, in the course. Never mind the fact that the manual for teachers is so important. This specific one, especially in terms of the development of trust, because there could be a very easy temptation, egoic temptation,
Mm.
to want to know what level you're at, and in the development of trust and how far you've come and how advanced you are. And I'll have a word with the voice, um, Holy Spirit, Christ mind when I return there. And
Yeah.
we'll have a little bit of a growl session, and that is, dude, did you have to use the word special gifts?
Mm.
Because this could be very misleading. God gives special gifts to his teachers. I would have replaced the word, are you listening, Holy Spirit? God gives very specific gifts, unique and maybe in characteristics, externalized characteristics or ways of explaining. For example, the way you teach, Leon, or the way Steve teaches versus the way I teach, which is obviously way more advanced than anyone else.
Of course.
Because, you know, I'm a special teacher. And there's the danger, because they have a special role in his plan. And it's not so much as a special role, but a very specific, unique role to play. And we got to drop that special. Like I said, Holy Spirit makes mistakes, or else Helen messed up and took it down wrong, and possibly Ken had something to say and influenced the. So let's blame our brothers because that's part of the curriculum.
Incidentally,
I
that
just
bit
I
there,
want to draw attention to that. That's all. Just let's be wary that it's not special as in superior or more
yeah.
advanced or whatever the case is. It's more in terms of specific and unique in the way that you do it. In his plan for atonement. So atonement is the awakening of the dreaming son. Their specialness, of course, is only temporary, and let's never forget that. And what is temporary is illusionary. So it's it's illusionary specialness, really, that may appear to be, some may be great orators, some may be wonderful at putting conferences together or workshops together. We've all got a very unique way of putting things together and set in time as a means of leading out of time. And that is beautiful. So it's the collapsing of the duality. Time means duality. These special gifts, these unique individual gifts born in the holy relationship. And that is vital because holy relationship is saying, I've chosen to seek first and foremost the awareness of self, the peace of God, the uniting. Prodigal son reunites with his father. That's vital because the minute you've made that decision, whether you call yourself formally or informally a teacher for God, you immediately move into a teacher for God role, to which the teaching learning situation is geared. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all else shall be given you. And so learning situations geared, they become characteristics of all teachers. So it's that dedication, and Steve just touched on it. We move out of faith because faith is always based on belief, and we move into trust. Now think of your relationships with people you know. You only trust people you know in true trust. I mean, we trust when you drive your car, you're in full trust that the oncoming traffic isn't going to collide into you. But in the formal word, trust means to trust someone means you must know them. And so trust also denotes that we know God, because we trust God means to know God. And there's no doubt. Trust means zero doubt. Faith is still vague. You have faith in a belief. There's a vagueness, there's a hope in it. But trust means it's a very firm, I know you, and I surrender, I put my life in your hands. And full trust. Full trust means I know you. So in full knowing. So I think that's important. That's an important take out of that. In this respect, we're all alike, whether we're teaching correctly or incorrectly, whether we're veering off, whether we're turning a course into a business or whatever the case may be, or we're blowing hot spiritual air up our trumpet. The reality is the truth of the essence of our greatest desire to remember self, remember God. That's what's important. And the rest could be ignored, easily forgiven, easily forgotten
Mm,
for me.
mm,
Well, I agree with all of that. Well said.
mm,
Actually, the only bit I would add to that, like, it's just as a little an aside, where it says set in time as a means of leading out of time. It's set in time. Well, our lives are already set before we get here,
Yeah.
from beginning or end. So we're designated these roles anyway in time, until we realise what we are. Then we move out of time. Although, as I understand it, a physical being, as from Nisargadatta and all that, and in the course, our physical lives on the script stay the same. It's just that we realise, as I've said in a few videos prior to this, that we realise we're actually enjoying a ride on a vehicle inside a dream of separation. The actual spirit isn't separate at all. But we think it is while we're in the ride, because we step into the ride, so to speak, and become separated in spirit. And while we're enjoying it, enjoying, it all depends on the case, the experience of separation, it's actually, we're not really, we're just still sitting in a seat in a so-called holographic cinema, you see.
Mhm.
And that is in that where it says moving out of time, out of our space and time, means that we're moving out of that. The body carries on doing what it does, but we now realize that it's actually just a dream or an illusion.
Mm.
or a distortion of truth, or an idea, or whatever phrase you want to call it,
Yeah.
But that's what it is,
Brilliant.
as
I
I
think you've
said.
both really expanded beautifully on that first line because, like I said, it's like the, the deeper characteristics that will establish them as what they are. And I think, listening to what you're saying, Steve, is like the predeterministic kind of expression in the course of like, you cannot but be in the right place at the right time,
Yeah,
or
exactly. You're what you're
your
supposed to be.
passage through time and space is not at random. The script is written. You can't establish the curriculum. All of these same sentiment framed in different words to say to us that you think your journey into a deeper understanding, but like Lewis was saying, which I think is brilliant as well, is like if we come back to the hub and the spokes analogy, we're describing characters as spokes, and then there's also the character, for want of another word, in the hub, and the two are they are the same, but they're not the same, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also was thinking about that lesson where it says, I trust my brothers who are one with me,
Yeah.
from the workbook.
Well, that's what
Going
you trusted, that they are one with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we go to the movie analogy,
Mm-hmm.
you're an actor with a very short memory span. Um, Jonathan Livingston Goldfish. And
Yeah.
and you go to the cinema and you sit down and you're watching a movie and you've forgotten you're acting it. And there's your character dressed as a cowboy, and he robs a bank and kisses a maiden, and as he's getting away, forgets to fill up his car and drives off a cliff. What a plot. And you're sitting there screaming at the screen, going, no, fill up your car. No, fill up your car. Don't drive in that direction. Hey, what are you doing? You're resisting what is. You've forgotten you've played that role, and you've forgotten that you're the character on the screen. You've forgotten there is no movie. It's not a reality. It's just a screen, and the screen is your awareness, and you're both the character and the cinema and the screen and everything that's happening.
Mm.
It's done. Your choice is to watch the movie and just enjoy it, and
Yeah.
not regret the role you played or wish you had played someone else other than that cowboy to fill up his car
Yeah.
and rob a bank. You're resisting because you're the producer of this entire thing. You've done the whole thing, and you would have kept doing it, kept producing cinema had you not heard a voice that said, "Hey, none of this is true."
Mm.
Why are you getting so wrapped up in the errors in your script? It's over. Awaken to the reality. It's done. Switch the lights on. The
Mm.
light has come. The fact that you're able to see the cinemas, there's light. Without light, you wouldn't be aware that you're aware.
Well, even that, if you look at the projector, if you're looking at the screen with all the action going on and turn around and look at the projector, you see a single white beam coming out. And that white beam is responsible when it's everything on the screen is you. The white beam is the source or whatever's projected here. And the images are just the illusion. All the
Yeah.
colours on there are all made out of that single white beam. And that white beam is producing the whole thing. And you're the one it's being projected onto. Believe in it. Once you become the screen again. I mean, that's Rupert Spira. That's one of the main sources of his teaching. He says, like, look through the 3 dimensions and just make it 2 dimensional and pull the 2 dimensional screen towards you and look behind it, basically. Essentially, that's what he's saying. You just pull yourself to the screen and realize that God is behind the screen. That's how I understand his teachings. I've listened to a few of his videos, and that seems to be his mode. He's very
Well,
good.
I do appreciate you mentioning Rupert because I was having a chat with Keith Kavanagh last weekend, and I was talking about my favourite podcast host. It was a guy called Simon Mundy. Used to be a journalist, and now he's got a channel on YouTube. He's had Rupert on there many times, and Francis Lucille, Bernardo Kastrup, Donald Hoffman. either alone or in different combinations. And he's watched Rupert for a long time and watched his evolution. And he was saying to him, why has your vocabulary changed? It's like a year or so ago, you were talking about awareness, the awareness of being aware. And Rupert sort of almost nodding, knowing where this is going. He goes, and now you're talking about being. And he's like, yeah, that's the evolution. I've gone from the awareness of awareness to just pure being. And I was talking to Keith about that because Keith's vocabulary has been super helpful for me as well. And there was one point where Keith said, it's the ego that resists the ego. And I was just like, wow, I love that. That's really, really helpful. Then he went through a phase of using the word allowing, and now it seems like he's gone for welcoming, which I think is a really nice sentiment as well, because to tie in with a bit of Ramana and Nisargadatta, and that lovely emphasis that they put on just the inevitability of the spontaneity is like through observing, identification is like it's a given, it's a natural outcome, and when he says, just watch the self, he goes, go on, trace the ego, see if you can go all the way back to the source and see if you can find an entity, and you won't find an entity. And then, as we know with the Holy Spirit as well, it's just like a presence rather than an entity, that we all share this present moment conscious awareness. If you focus on that, then you are actually the master of your mind. You are actually steering the ship, and it will respond to you, and it will start to not go on these convoluted pathways into the world, chasing after thoughts and aspirations and desires to perhaps change or resist or to not allow or to not welcome. It will then respond to you, pouring in what you pour into it, and it will start to find its own attraction in that silence. So what you then observe is what you then identify with, and then it becomes like a little self-feeding circle in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ouroboros,
Gotcha.
the snake that swallows his tail, is actually just a
Yeah.
coil and he's just on a loop. And that's really what the next five stages are as well. It's just this loopy loop of madness, thinking you can find salvation or enlightenment or awareness by practicing some form of ritual or whatever the case is, or reading some form of material, and give up the search. Nisargadatta said it, Ramana Maharishi said it, um, Papaji said it, and Neem Karoli Baba said it. It's give up the search, stop searching. But you got to search until you get to that point of realizing there's nothing more to search for, and abide in silent stillness, or abide as awareness, or rest in peace.
Mhm.
How do you get to a point where you realize you know nothing? By thinking you know a lot. And then eventually it dawns on you actually don't diddly squat. But that's the beautiful trust. The trust, once that moment of remembrance, awareness, self-realization is there, trust is inevitable. Trust isn't something you can force upon yourself. It becomes an inevitable state of being, state of awareness. All of a sudden, there's just full trust. And at first, there's the faith playing a role,
Mm.
because faith is based on the belief and a concept, because we're remembering through concepts, we're learning through concepts, and eventually it just becomes a brain filled with concepts, and some of them sound contradictory and polar opposite, and yet the sense of it's all there. And then that day of the true trust, that holy instant when trust
Mm.
becomes you, you just drop, all of a sudden you drop all that content, and the true learning begins. And that true learning is the undoing, because we seek for understanding, we seek for knowledge in order to understand, in the hope of transcendence. And there comes a moment, the holy instant, when all of that is just dumped. You just throw out all those books, all those concepts, all those beliefs, and there's just the sense of there's this knowing, and you have full trust in this knowing.
Mm.
because the knowing is being, being is shared, and therefore the knowing of self and God is one indivisible self. And that holy instant, which that wonderful prayer says, this holy instant I give to you,
Mm.
knowing full well that in your direction I, never mind, will find I am peace. It's the beauty of this is it there comes that moment in time where time collapses, dissolves, and the real teaching journey begins. And what is the teaching journey? It's just we're reminding ourselves
Yeah.
of what, not who, what we truly are. The who is still in the layers of the dream. The what is right-mindedness.
So the who could be spokes and the what could be the hub.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thinking about it, I just this crossed my mind while Lucy was talking.
Yeah.
My trust in the course began when a friend of mine lent me the course. I told you a story before. She lent me a copy of the course, and I read a few paragraphs, and I somehow I knew it was truth, even though I didn't understand it
Yeah.
properly. I knew it was the truth, and I knew oddly that I was going to teach this. Which it made me think like I'm destined to do that. That's why, because I just knew I felt compelled to teach this. I knew it straight away, but my trust began more or less straight away
Hmm.
because as soon as I started to learn it, started to study it, I just knew it was true. I was trusting it, and I was trusting it to teach me.
Right.
It was teaching me trust. My
Yeah.
trust was already there, but it had to
Yeah.
feed this trust till it built up until it was absolute.
Mm.
Trust
Interesting.
is, you know,
It's like an
I've
inevitable
always trusted
outcome.
it.
Like an inevitable outcome, when it says the deeper characteristics that will establish them as what they are, it just leads you to that inevitable outcome trust, which is
Yeah,
it's at the start and it's at the end, and there is no middle, and there is no start, and there is no end.
like you
I'll
just
tell you what
said,
I
yeah.
would like to emphasize as well is as we do find the deeper meaning, we shouldn't be hard on ourselves when we get sucked into past paradigms or a past model or old ideas. You get a lot of people who think that, oh, I've been on the good foot now for a while, or I'm a year into this, or I'm 10 years into this, and I'm out in the clear, I'm in the woods now. This is it. I'm done. I'm never, I'm gonna have a Ramana Maharshi and never have a bad moment ever again. And yet they do, and we do, and everyone does. And I like to refer back to what Bill Thetford said was like about the pendulum swing. And he basically said, you will vacillate between right-mindedness and wrong-mindedness. And basically the goal as such would be to just reduce the time spent away from right-mindedness as you go along, just make that pendulum swing shorter each time, but just be kind to yourself and know that some days you will wake up and you will get annoyed about something, or you will see something on the telly and think, wow, you're just going to go into it, concepts, and then out and in and out. But you have to remember that it's the fact that you can even recognize that the two things exist is your salvation, because you're recognizing your capacity to recognize something means that you are not it.
Well, I tell you, even in David Godman's videos about Maharshi, even Maharshi was attacked, and he was about as awake as you could possibly get. According to him, some robbers come to the ashram, and one of them was hitting his legs with a stick. Right, and apparently they was hitting his legs, and he's just looking at the thing going up and down his leg, and just said, "Well, you stop hitting my legs with that stick," And he was totally unfazed by it. To him it was just like, "Oh, look, someone's walked in there, hit my legs with a stick. Will you please desist? I'm not finding this to my liking. Thank you.
You should
Don't
try
come
that,
again."
Lou.
Hey?
I would like to see you try that, Lou.
but that's the impression I got from it. So even someone as holy as he can come under some unwarranted attack. So, but it's the only case of it that I knew about that he mentioned anyway. So yeah. into each life a little rain must fall, as the old saying goes. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is
Hmm.
this is the typical this is the big challenge that students of a course or of any non-dual path struggle with is, shit still happens. And they're like, but I'm on the spiritual path. All this nonsense should stop now. How come it continues? And then you've got those that say, well, the world's an outer reflection of inner conditions. So just like that lady who dropped her eggs and milkshake last week because Leon
Oh,
hooted his car. She must have created it. What has she done to deserve this? And therefore it's her fault. No, guys,
yeah.
it's just that this our dreaming mind dreamt up this entire thing from the inception of the Big Bang to every planet that and star system that's been made in between, and every single life form organism from the amoeba to the Course in Miracles student is dreamt up by the dreaming mind. What the dreaming mind could never have conceived of was the very core essence of itself, which it couldn't remember since it fell asleep and became trapped in its dream, was the core essence of what we are. Our truest essential nature is pure love, is the very source energy of source, God. And as much as you try and resist or deny or denounce, or you could have the attitude of nihilism or avoidance or disassociation. The essence of you, the very DNA, if I may use that term, of what we are, um, DNA stands for divine and awakened. The DNA of what we are cannot be forgotten. And as much as we want to stay asleep and dream up whatever horror stories of the biblical distortions we try and imagine, the truth will be remembered. It will return to the surface. Like, I'd like to draw attention to what Steve said a little earlier. He picked up the course and he knew. It was a knowing. He knew he could trust it. How on earth did you know?
Mhm.
You can't explain that. It's trying to explain the Tao or trying to explain what God is. You can't explain that full trust that comes in. It's a knowing. And no, don't even bother trying to explain it, especially not to a scientific mind or a skeptic or a trapped in translation religioso. You're not going to convince them. So don't even bother. But you know because you know. And how do you know? Well, it matters not how you know. You do. And it's in that knowing that the trust is, and that's what's beautiful.
Mhm.
And and this is why I always urge, someone says to me, "Oh, I've just bought the course, I've just gotten into the course, how should I do this?" And my first instruction to them is before you start reading anything, go to the clarification for terms so you understand what the terms really mean, because they're going to use them and you're going to be confused with old religious terms. And then go straight into manual for teachers. And only when you've completed the manual for teachers, at least 6,742 times, then should you start the course. Because the core, as I said, the manual for teachers is addressing the jiva, the characters in the mind, and saying, hey, look out for this. Be aware this is coming. Be aware of characteristics are irrelevant, external appearances are irrelevant, psychic phenomena, you can use it, don't use it, doesn't matter. But be aware that at some stage in your transcendent sequence, I won't be talking. The voice, the real you,
Mhm.
the memory of self and the present moment awareness of God will now address you, the dreaming mind. But for now, I'm addressing you, the appearance of a character in your own dream.
Yeah.
And then the rest just falls into place. And the minute you try and stop resisting, stop denouncing, stop trying to run away from it, or trying to control it, the opposite side of the coin,
Yeah.
the minute you surrender to, not in the course I know, but which really is align your will with God's will. The minute you align, surrender into your hands I place my life, and you're fully willing to forget you've ever existed as a different character or a spirit that's had millions of incarnations, and only remember and only know, forget remember, know the essence of self, that moment you are set free.
Mm.
It
And
would
let's
only take 16 billion years to figure it out. So I did
let's
something important.
let's just make reference as well to something that you drill home about the memory of God, and something that Steve's spoken about before, which is like, we can't remember God because God isn't in the past. The actual to say remember is like it's a disorientating signpost, if you like, because it implies that it's not in the present moment, which is the only place that it can be. So,
Yeah. So I like to say, and this is new, this is a refinement that's come about in the last few weeks, is remember self. So we, the Jiva characters, remember ourself as the dreamer. So we can remember God because we appear to be in time. I mean, we can remember self because we appear to be in time. So we remember self and then we know God.
yeah.
We don't remember God. We remember self and know God. The minute
Mhm.
we remember self, we know God. That's it.
And interesting, to bring Rupert Spira into things again. When Rupert does his thing about your Mary's asleep in London, dreaming that she's Jane on the streets of Paris.
Hmm.
And then he makes the distinction and says it's not Jane in Paris who wakes up and remembers
Hmm.
she's Mary,
Beautiful.
because Jane in Paris doesn't exist.
Correct.
It's Mary who's in bed in London, asleep, who wakes up to remember she's Mary, and Jane was never
And
real.
every other character,
Yeah, including
including Paris.
Paris
Yeah,
itself. Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
London.
only the
And
only
London
challenge,
and the world, the
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
Let's
The only
expand
challenge
on
I
this.
have, and this is important, Course in Miracles teachers, and students. This is why this is the most advanced course of non-duality in the universe.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Is Rupert makes a fundamental mistake, which he refuses to admit. And I know he's been challenged on it a few times, and he just goes, nah. So let's say Mary is dreaming. She's Jane on the streets of Paris. So it's not Jane that wakes up, it's Mary that wakes up. All the characters, Paris dissolves.
Mhm.
And Rupert's in my humble opinion, Rupert's mistake is that Mary is now God
Yeah.
dreaming.
Yeah.
And naughty Rupert, um, I have the utmost respect for Rupert. He's been a phenomenal teacher for me in terms of non-duality. Um, I've had millions of arguments with him in my head, punched him in the nose twice at least, uh, in my head. And that is, sorry, Rupert, you're missing a step. Fundamentally, yes, God is all there is. So
Sure.
yes, fundamentally, the Son is the extension of God, and therefore the essence of the Son is God. But if you leave out that step, that God isn't dreaming, but the Son, or in this case, Mary, the daughter of God,
Mhm.
let's not leave out the feminine. Um, Mary is dreaming, not God is dreaming. And once Mary realizes she dreamt up herself as Jane on the streets of Paris, Mary awakens to herself and realizes, oh, I'm home. I'm in my mother's home. I've never left.
Yeah.
That's a
Nice.
fundamental step because if you and this is what I find quite strange from Rupert is he's a student of non-duality, Ramana Maharishi, Meister Eckhart. He has definitely made um, non-duality very palatable for the Western world.
Mm.
But by missing that little step, which is easily assimilated if he understood Atman is Brahman, but there's an Atman. It doesn't go from the Jiva straight to Brahman. The
Mhm.
Jiva realizes Atman, I am Atman. And the core essential nature of Atman is Brahman.
Yeah.
Atman is Brahman. So the Son is the extension of God. Atman is Brahman. Christ is extension of God. Christ is God. But there's an important step, because without that step, it's easy to understand why the novice, first time, or a non-dual Course in Miracles student says, "But hang a second, if God is dreaming, how could God dream of evil if God is pure love?" And so that's what that little step fails to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah.
If Mary was dreaming she's Jane and she's getting mugged in the streets of Paris, then hang a second, that mugging is in Mary's mind, not Jane's mind. But then if Mary is God, then muggings are in God.
Hmm.
Not possible.
Hmm.
It's only
Yeah.
because Mary has forgotten she's the son or daughter of God that she can dream of muggings, of Jane being mugged.
Yeah.
Once Mary recognizes it was all a dream, there will be no thought of muggings on the street of Paris. She awakens to the reality of she's never left the kingdom, and she then dissolves the identity Mary, son of, and becomes pure light extension of God. The Son of God is a temporal identity while we dream. Once the dream is over, there is no Son of God. There's just pure extension. Yes, I know in the course that it says sons of God, but what other language do we use for Judeo-Christian awakening fractured selves, but old religious terms? But if you were to go into the pure non-dual, sun is just pure extension energy. And once that
Mm.
extension energy recognizes it is extension energy, it's over. It's just the continuation of God's extension ever now, eternally now, is all there is. God is all there is. So
And
it's
that is articulated with there's nowhere that the son ends and the father begins, so there's nowhere
correct.
the father
Yeah.
ends and the son. That's a really
And
powerful
if you think of it in terms of energy, Leon, then it's just that's a perfect explanation, just energy or pure light. There's nowhere where the light starts and the light ends. There's nowhere, it's just
Mm,
a continuation of
mm,
ever present, eternal, now here light.
mm,
Also, there's a what you're saying about the God wouldn't project at someone getting mugged in Paris. That's covered in the book about where it covers God is not mocked, as it says in the Bible. God
Yes.
is not mocked. Because the way it says it in the Bible, it makes it sound like God's threatening you. Don't you mock me, mate? I'll chuck a lightning bolt at
No,
you, that
exactly.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what it really means is like God is not mocked. If you think God is not mocked by you believing that this world, this evilness of this world, is anything to do with Him. He is
Absolutely.
mocked if you think it's His
brilliant,
creation.
brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, a hundred
that's how
percent.
he explains it. I mean, it is not mocked because you don't mock him by insinuating that he's responsible for this. You're responsible for this, not him.
Yeah.
Mm,
So he's not mocked. It's
brilliant.
not a threat.
Yeah.
It's just telling you.
Like I
It's
said,
just
it's just a matter of time. And the Course in Miracles is going to hit Rupert on the head, and then he's going to refine even the word being. Um,
well, he got dragged
I'm
along to
forever
a
grateful.
I
Forever
can't
grateful.
Bill Free. I can't think of his wife's name at the moment. They got a little Akim Society, and they got Rupert Spira to come along to a Course of Miracles meeting, and it was a Zoom meet, and he came along, and I watched some of it, and he said he regards Course of Miracles as what's it called, New Age. He said, oh, this New Age stuff is like real, and he sort of like kind of disregarded it,
Mhm.
but he didn't seem to realise that he was teaching the same stuff as him, more or less.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
new, it's not New Age. I mean, New Age. It's not New Age in my way of looking at it. The Course of Miracles is individually itself. It's
Well,
not related to any New
Does,
Age kind of.
does that mean you haven't got any crystals just out of sight there and you don't do chanting before we come on?
No, I don't. As it
Oh,
goes, I'm
hold on a minute.
uncrystallized.
Hold on.
I am without crystal. No, I haven't got anything like that.
Because I know, see those two statues
I've got a couple
behind.
of Buddhas in the garden.
I was just going to say, those two statues behind Lou, he never pans out because there's a unicorn either side of those as well.
absolutely.
He
Made
keeps
out
them
of,
out of shot because he doesn't want us all to know.
yeah, it's made out of, crystal from the Pallades.
Show off.
Mail order.
But let's to come back to Rupert. Um, like I say, forever grateful. He really, the clarity in which he makes very often difficult concepts easy to understand are phenomenal. But, so forever grateful to Rupert. But the one person to me who's never compared teachers, but I resonate with him is Francis Lucille. I love the way he explains the non-dual concepts. Ultimately, for me, and I find myself very drawn to the way she teaches, is O'Hara. She, I know she uses the term awareness, rest is awareness, and I find myself using the same terms. Um, Phenomenal. Just the clarity, because it's as Steve mentioned in last week's episode, we get so trapped in the makeup of the dream and the layers of the dream of the projection and the layers and the spirit world and of the secret dream. We get very spirituality gets very trapped, and there's thousands of videos on near death experiences and so forth and what happens there and the channelings. There's more and more channelings happening now. What all of that does is it makes the whole illusion of first dream, secret dream, and projection real. Um, at some stage, you have to drop all of that, bypass it, go directly to right-mindedness, to self, to the remembrance of self and the knowing of our source, God. And without that little interim step,
Mm.
there's a major failure. Um, Whereas Candace O'Hara to me takes you direct there and takes you instantly there. And from our conversation, I believe Keith Kavanagh is doing the same, and the Argentinian teacher um,
Nick Arandes.
Nick Carandis, he's doing it as well, taking us directly there. And I can understand that becomes a natural progression for teachers for God.
Mm.
We're going to go there, and through direct experience, we're going to want to share it.
Mm.
Um, what's important here is uh, no matter what it appears as, it's all temporary. And one of the most important takeouts I've had from A Course in Miracles is never, ever compare teachers. One of the mistakes I made was I got quite angry with teachers for what I thought was them misleading students. And because I then got trapped in being angry and trying to correct um, their errors in judgment, I got trapped in the judgment.
Yeah,
And it was through
yeah. It's easy
my
done.
one of my groups and one of my talks and one of my students, who's a teacher in herself, that it was brought into my awareness that what I'm now doing is, although I see the error, I've made it real, I now judge it, I get trapped in it, and I now get the attack thoughts because the empaths get all defensive, whether the person is
Mm.
doing right or wrong, and now the empaths attack you, and then they judge you for judging. So the empaths now get trapped in judgment
Right.
and say you're judging. And hang a second, I want to stop that. And I just dropped it. I completely dropped it and I said, okay, I'm not talking about other teachers anymore. And the script is written, whatever going to play is going to play. I'm going to teach my way. If you're going to ask me my opinion, I'm going to share it with you, just like Papa G said. If something appears and disappears, it was never real. If you're going to ask me if so and so is real, I'm going to say to you, if it appears and disappears, it isn't. Return straight to right-mindedness, light of awareness, rest is awareness, abide in silent stillness,
Mm.
face your shadows, surrender them, abide. Holy Spirit does the work, and God takes the final step.
That's
But
a
it's
wonderful admission as well, because that comes back to
Mm.
earlier with me saying, it's really important that everybody knows, however far down the road, the imaginary road, however far the imaginary distance down the imaginary road you think you've imaginarily traveled,
yes,
if you can find something else, like you're admitting to yourself, because, let's not forget that in that imaginary journey, Jesus, as a character, one of the spokes on the hub from the hub,
yeah,
plays a role. And then as you go down the imaginary road, Jesus moves into the role of the abstract, which is the Holy Spirit. Then
Yes.
the Holy Spirit, you realize, is you.
Yes.
And then you realize that you've never left
Yeah.
God. God's only available in the moment. We call that the holy relationship, the holy instant. My holiness envelops everything I see. Holiness becomes a superfluous term because there's no opposite. So, it's really cool that you're sharing that because
Mm.
somebody might be going, well, he's been looking at this stuff since he was a little boy. He's had like the Tao Te Ching since he was 9 years old. He's had this, that. He's probably never going to blah, blah, blah. And you're saying, look, within the last month to two, I've noticed how I can refine my perception so that it leads towards truth and not away from it.
Yeah. And dear listeners, dear brothers, students for, teachers for God, students of A Course in Miracles, the characteristics to you, you may look at me. Some people think I'm very angry because they don't understand not the 9 o'clock news. Um, the characteristics are superfluous, temporary, irrelevant, um, of absolute no consequence whatsoever. Can you look at the teachers and say, okay, this one is for me. I fully align with this. Or no, this isn't for me. I don't align with this.
Hmm.
Uh, the three of us have connected because, as I've mentioned in the previous episode, you guys completely agree with me and you think I'm wonderful. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't want to be your friends.
I
Find those
appreciate
that
that.
you find those you resonate with, you know, find those whose message hits home and
Hmm.
stay there. And don't compare Lou to Leon. Next thing you're comparing characteristics and facial features and the accent or the fact that, I mean, just, can you look at the three of us, realize we're completely different, yet our hearts are fully aligned. We seek ye first the kingdom. That's it. That's the true alignment. The characteristics of the teachers may seem to soften. The minute you
Hmm.
get into judgment, should do this, shouldn't do that. I had a question the other day, and it was just beautiful alignment. Why that question came in my direction, I have no idea until I answered it. And then I realized that's exactly why. I've just gone through the direct experience. There
Hmm.
was a student who's been a vegan his whole life, and his whole system's breaking down, and he's an O blood type, and he's gone to see nutritionists, and the nutritionist said to him, "Dude, you should be on a carnivore diet or keto at minimum." And he's now gone onto carnivore, and his whole body's changed, and his whole life's gone, and all the autoimmune system problems have gone, and he's healthy, and he's got clarity, and he's putting on weight again, and he's able to get up in the mornings and go to work, and the depression's disappeared, and the bipolarity's disappeared, and he's off the medical, the psychiatric drugs. He's a completely different person. And now someone in the course community said, yeah, but you shouldn't be eating cows. It's wrong. Hey, you're only eating parts of yourself. The whole thing's you. So the minute you start judging, you should do this and you can't do this and you should, don't do that. All you're doing, and I recognized this. As much as I was trying to help people and see the clarity and understand the truth and understand the illusions and the specialness that some teachers try and make themselves to be, all I was doing by judging it and pointing it out was just trapping myself in that conflict,
Mhm.
even though for me it was clear what is true and not true. But now I was getting people judging me for judging, which is weird, isn't it? And then let it go. Just let it go. Now,
Yeah.
can you look at Lou and Leon and crazy Steve and realize, hang a second, if you think crazy Lou is less crazy than Steve, you're absurd. These three guys are completely just as nuts as each other, just in completely different ways. And hang a second, the only reason I recognize they're crazy is I must be too.
Yeah.
You know, can you look at this and Ron, honestly, can you look at me right now and not judge me for whatever? And just say, okay, I'm aligned or not aligned. I'm learning from you or I can learn nothing from you and move along. Can you truly look at me and not judge? Can you? Can you?
Well, I mean, what we talk about to a lot of people will be judged crazy straight away. If you stop the average Joe in the street, like, and tapped him on the shoulder and say, "Guess what? You're dreaming." And I'm in your dream.
Sure.
You
A
know,
teacher for
they
God
think you were a
shouldn't be
bit
smoking.
crazy.
A teacher for God shouldn't wear a hat in a formal conversation. A teacher for God shouldn't smile so much. Really, what the fuck's wrong with you, Leon? You're mad. Only mad people smile so much. You
And you
know,
should be wearing a white robe and sandals.
absolutely.
You
Well,
grow
I
your hair
could be
about
wearing.
down here. Keep the
I'm sure
beard.
you're wearing sandals,
Take
Steve.
off
I'm
your
sure
gloves.
you.
Yeah, I've got them. They keep me grounded in the
You
best
know,
possible way. Sandals of God.
yeah. Sandals are God. Yeah. The only thing is not of God in this world are Crocs. I'm convinced of that.
Croc. Oh, yeah.
I'm there, mate. I'm there with that. That's the proof
Like
that
I
the
say, I
devil.
don't judge
I
anymore. I
don't,
don't judge anymore.
No, but that was the devil's greatest trick was that he made people think that Crocs didn't exist.
You're making me laugh. Stop it.
Yeah. Let's have a look at this paragraph for the first characteristic. Number one, trust. We won't go into the development of trust this week, as we said, but let's just have a little look at this because I think it's a wonderful way to build on that sharing. So, trust, this is the foundation on which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Perception is the result of learning. In fact, perception is learning because cause and effect are never separated. The teachers of God have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. It's governed by a power that is in them but not of them. It is this power that keeps all things safe. It's through this power that the teachers of God look on a forgiven world. When this power has once been experienced, it's impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is it that induces them to make that shift?
that trust.
The
The trust.
trust.
The foundation. The trust. Like I say, when I first got the book and I trusted it, it was truth. It was the truth straight from the beginning. That was my foundation, as it says here. This is the foundation, the trust.
Maybe that's why you resonated with wanting to emphasize Nisargadatta's trust of his guru, Steve.
Uh,
You
well,
know, 'cause
funny
that
enough,
must have jumped out at you.
jumped out at me. Well, look at this. Afterwards, I looked at yesterday to see what actually was we were going to talk about today. It's been and I saw it was about trust, and then I opened my book as I do every day, and it opened at this page. Um, this is Maharshi. No, not this is Gadada talking about his guru. He told me I'm the supreme reality. What did you do about it? I trusted him. This is Nisargadatta, and I remembered it. Questioner, is that all? Nisargadatta, yes, I remembered him. I remember what he said. Do you mean to say that this was enough? What more needs to be done? I am is enough to heal your mind and take you beyond. Just have some trust.
Wow.
And that was on the page when I opened the books for my daily scour. You know, what it is with Nisargadatta is because everything I learned over 15 years with A Course in Miracles, I've done loads and loads of videos teaching it, and I've used things that I've plucked out of the air, different analogies that I've borrowed off Advaita and stuff like that. And they're all in there, every single one of them. And he said them long before me. So I'm sort of latching onto some universal inner mind here. Because
Yeah,
like the
but it's
ideas,
meeting you where you are. You're becoming a more refined version of yourself.
that's it. That's it. I can understand every word from beginning to end. I saw a video by Ajay Shanti the other day, and he said when he first started, he bought this book, he read it, and he couldn't understand a word. And then when he became enlightened some years later, he read it again and then he could. And I thought, wait a minute. So if I would have read Nisargadatta before I got the Course in Miracles, perhaps I wouldn't have understood a word. But now I can understand every word. I
Mm.
certainly am enlightened, at least to a certain degree, because I can. And I fearlessly say, I understand every word, and every word of that is true. And I know it is.
No truth.
I have trust.
You have trust.
I was fortunate enough to read I Am That a few years before the course came in my direction.
Right.
Interesting.
And the minute I picked up the Course in Miracles, there it was, I Am That. I'd also been following the teachings of Ramana Maharishi and Neem Karoli Baba, Ram Dass made famous.
Mm.
Um, Meister Eckhart. I was reading Meister Eckhart in my late 20s, and there it was. But it didn't have the clarity I received through the course. And like you, Steve, the minute I picked up the course the second time, first time quoted from it for a section of my second book and then put it down and gave the book away. But the second time I picked up the course, there was a sense of knowing. And that knowing was complete trust. I fully knew and therefore trusted completely that this was that keystone for me to
Right.
to finalize that beautiful overarching theme of non-duality and awakening to self-reality.
Mhm.
Now that I've read the course countless times, I found the Upanishads, and there they are,
Mhm.
and the Mahavakyas, possibly the oldest text ever. Um, um, the tales of Gilgamesh, Book of Thoth. It's it's identical. You see the parallels in everything. Even some of the analogies are similar, except there was no cinema screen analogies. But ocean, fish, we're all dissolving into that hub, that
Yeah.
awareness of being, awareness of awareness, present moment awareness, presence, the lightness of being, this holy instant. That's the beauty. And that's the power that keeps all things safe. Because I think of in my growing up life in South Africa, the war in Angola, the bodyguarding, and the crime in South Africa, how we live with firearms and blah blah blah. It was always about keeping the body safe and those around me safe.
Mm.
It's irrelevant now. The essence of me is forever safe, forever free. And the minute that, because it is fear-based, dissolved, not fully yet, is dissolved, almost completely dissolved. It's almost there. Little pangs every blue moon. The safety is there. Uh, it's never mind, trust the world, trust the whole universe, meteors included, because it's not governed by gravity. It's governed by love. It's governed by a power that's beyond us, yet is in us and flows through us because it's the essence of what we are. Holy Son of God, you are love. You are made as the love extension of God. That's what you are. Your function is the extension of love. Your essence is the extension of love. And once it is known directly, how can you not trust it? It's beyond anything we could ever imagine as body mind characters. It's beyond imagination. There's a depth and gentleness of knowing that is all powerful. I studied it in martial arts, the strength of gentleness, the strength and flexibility, the reed and the wind. I now get it. I understand.
Mm.
Beyond understanding, it's lived. I live it. And I wish it upon all my brothers. I
Amen.
will it upon all my brothers.
Yeah. Let's have a look at that sentence again, then, now, based on the back of what you've just said. So, the teachers of God have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. It is governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. It is this power that keeps all things safe. It's through this power that the teachers of God look on a forgiven world.
Because what do we think governs the laws of this world? You realize all of us are thought forms in the dreaming mind. What is a thought form? I urge you all, look up Candace O'Hara. Rest as awareness is the channel. We're all just points of view of what we all could possibly be or what the dreamer is. It's the dreaming mind has spat out all these thought forms, thoughts, points of view as to what it could be. When fear entered the dreaming mind, it thought of a gazillion ways, or 8 billion on this planet, of ways of staying asleep, of forgetting the core essence of what we are, of staying trapped in our delusions, of laws made in a world. What are all these laws? They're just points of views. What are beliefs? Just points of views. What happens when you return to the knowing I am? The I am is present moment awareness. I am is pure awareness. Christ mindedness, right mindedness is pure awareness, pure being, if you want to use Rupert's word. What happens when you know pure being as self? All points of views converge, bicycle spokes, onto the center hub. And what's in the core of the hub? A hollow, a hole, holy hole, the void, truth.
Yeah. What you said earlier there about us being extensions of God, which we are, and how can we know what his extensions are until we know what God is? But it's the same way. I'm always using this analogy because it's a good one. But when we dream at night, the people in my dream are extensions of me. No matter what they
Absolutely.
think they might be, they go about doing their dream stuff, and I watch them, totally an observer. But they, whatever they are, they're purely me. No matter what they think they might be and what the antics they get up to, but they're doing it through my power. If I wasn't powering them, they wouldn't be able to do it. And
100%.
that is a little a microcosm of what we actually are here.
It's the as above, so below analogy.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you dream of you, so you at night dream of yourself back in some streets of
Yeah,
Paris, interacting with other parts, but every character, the goods and the bads in your dream, are all fractures of your dreaming mind.
yeah, it's all separation. Again, the separation just goes on and on and on,
Yeah,
it just,
because it's like we're telling the same story to ourselves in a myriad of forms. And
yeah, yeah.
the Big Bang is a perfect example because it's like there's a distant event, there's a memory of a distant event where everything came from a single source, exploded outward, and separated into billions and billions of separate pieces over billions of years with loads of space and distance in between them all.
And it all landed so perfectly all over the place, like, like all landed here and landed there. There's the mammoths and there's the dinosaurs. Yeah, all that. It reminds me of
Yeah.
that Big Bang thing. Remind me of the old-fashioned televisions with a great big tube on them.
Yeah.
Some of the older ones used to turn them on the back, used to go bang, and then the picture would slowly appear. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It fired a big bang at the back of the TV, and then the picture would appear. We might
Yeah.
be on some giant TV screen somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just an
Lovely.
Not
analogy.
not the
But
9 o'clock news. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. International celestial 9 o'clock news.
So
Yeah.
this is the bit of I am that I've got for you guys this week. Very interesting and un unsurprisingly pertinent to where we've ended up with the conversation. It's from section 64. Whatever pleases you keeps you back. And the questioner says, how does one come to know the knower? I can only tell you what I know from my own experience. When I met my guru, he told me, you are not what you take yourself to be. Find out what you are. Watch the sense I am. Find your real self. I obeyed him because I trusted him. I did as he told me. All my spare time I would spend looking at myself in silence. And what a difference it made. And how soon. It took me only 3 years to realize my true nature. My guru died soon after I met him, but it made no difference. I remembered what he told me and persevered. The fruit of it is here with me. What is it? I know myself as I am in reality. I'm neither the body, nor the mind, nor the mental faculties. I'm beyond all these. Are you just nothing? Come on, be reasonable. Of course I am, most tangibly, only I am not what you may think me to be. This tells you all. It tells me nothing, because it cannot be told. You must gain your own experience. You are accustomed to dealing with things, physical and mental. I'm not a thing, nor are you. We're neither matter nor energy, neither body nor mind. Once you have a glimpse of your own being, you will not find me difficult to understand. We believe in so many things on hearsay. We believe in distant lands and people, in heavens and hells, in gods and goddesses, because we are told. Similarly, we are told about ourselves, our parents, name, position, duties, and so on. We never cared to verify. The way to truth lies through the destruction of the false. To destroy the false, you must question your most inveterate beliefs. Of these, the idea that you are a body is the worst. With the body comes the world, with the world, God, who is supposed to have created the world, and thus it starts. Fears, religions, prayers, sacrifices, all sorts of systems, all to protect and support the child man, frightened out of his wits by monsters of his own making. Realize that what you are cannot be born nor die, and with the fear gone, all suffering ends. What the mind invents, the mind destroys. But the real is not invented and cannot be destroyed. Hold on to that over which the mind has no power. What I'm telling you about is neither in the past nor in the future, nor is it in the daily life as it flows in the now. It's timeless, and the total timelessness of it is beyond the mind. My guru, in his words, "You are myself," are timelessly with me. In the beginning, I had to fix my mind on them, but now it's become natural and easy. The point when the mind accepts the words of the guru as true and lives by them spontaneously and in every detail of daily life is the threshold of realization. In a way, it is salvation by faith, but the faith must be intense and lasting. However, you must not think that faith is enough. Faith expressed in action is a sure means to realization. Of all the means, it's the most effective. There are teachers who deny faith and trust reason only. Actually, it is not faith they deny, but blind beliefs. Faith is not blind, it is the willingness to try.
Well, it's trust nutshelled, isn't it, really? It's just the importance of trust he's emphasizing there, you know, as we know.
Just the importance of trust. Just the importance of trust.
Well,
No big deal.
well, it's just.
Chuck it in the
It's
drawer.
just, isn't it?
Chuck it in the drawer.
Trust is everything then.
Trust is just.
Underline it, double underline it, bold type, gold plate it, capital J. Oh, no, T. No, J. Trust just. Oh, God. Justly trusted.
Absolutely. It's because we don't trust that we're having this conversation. It's because we don't trust that we're watching thousands of YouTube videos looking for the answer. If you look at the teachings of these great sages that came before us, our brothers, like a Jesus, Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta, Neem Karoli Baba, Ram Das, for example, too, Papaji, one of my all-time favorites. Just love the way he explained things. Listen to them over and then Rupert Spiro, Francis Lucille, Candace O'Hara. Why am I listening to all these people? Who did Ramana Maharishi listen to? I'm sure you read a few books, but what he did mostly is abide, rest as awareness, abide in silent stillness, rest in calm,
Stillness.
rest in peace, just direct experience. Don't follow my footsteps. I've gone the very, very long way around, reading thousands of books and so many different paths and trying to understand it all, and then writing books about the paths. And I get to a point now, I don't want to watch it and listen to anything. I just abide, rest as awareness, in awareness. And even while I'm going about my day, the awareness is still all pervading. It's all always present. When did this flip? Yes, there's definitely a receding of awareness, but there's still an awareness even when I'm annoyed or getting angry, which of course is less and less so lately. Um, we 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 say we trust, but we don't. We say we have faith, but we don't. We're looking for answers, and the challenge, as beautiful as social media is, because we have access to so much information, people's lifetimes condensed to a couple of hours, and the core of their teachings, the truest part of their teachings, we can access. But they will remain meaningless and trapped in the realm of concept and belief until we have a direct experience thereof. So if there's anything I could urge you to do is find the time, like you just read Nirsagadata doing. Find the time, go and sit and abide. And don't trust me. Try it. Go and abide. Go abide in silent stillness. Look upon yourself. Find the source of the thoughts. Find the source of your delusions, of your shadows, of your painful memories. Try and find the source. You won't find. Trust me, you won't find. I've looked my whole life. Can't find it. But what you will find is silent stillness. And from that silent stillness, from that void, flows the lightness, the infinite lightness of being, the knowing. And the transcendence, or what people call the enlightenment, the transcendence, the awakening to self, the self-realization of I am that which dreams, I am that which observes the content of my dream. I am both the contents and that observing it. I'm all of it. And if I'm that which observes and the content, then there is something beyond that. Sink into that. And I can't explain it.
No, it's
Other
beautiful.
than to try and use words, joyful peace, infinite lightness of being, concessions.
Mm.
I will it upon
Pure
all my.
love.
Was that Steve?
Just pure love.
Yeah,
Pure love, brotherly love, or whatever type of love it is. It's just love.
it's just love.
It's like I was thinking about this love thing the other day. We've got a little cat, and I love our little cat, right? We love this cat, and it's absolutely pure love. I absolutely purely love this cat without condition. The cat, there's nothing about it not to love, apart from it scratching up the furniture and stuff like that. But when you see it going about doing its thing, I absolutely love it. And I love that the way I love all of nature. I love it. I know it sounds a bit sued, but it's true. I love all of nature. And it
Yeah.
personifies when I look at that cat. It is everything, and I love my wife, of course I do. But it's like the whole thing is like you take it out of that and spread it all around you.
Yeah, you're a
If you're
master
surrounded
at
by
it.
love,
You're a
if you're
master
surrounded
at
by
it.
love, if it's in your heart, it's going to project out, and you have love all around you.
And I
That's
can
why.
tell you, as somebody who observes you, that you're a master at it, and it's a beautiful thing to be in the presence of and to see it in action. Because the simple truth is that you are authentic, and the part
I
of
thank you for saying that. I do feel authentic. I feel love. I do
course,
feel it.
that's when Lewis first said to me a couple of years ago, "Do you know this guy?" And I was like, "Not heard of him." He's like, "This guy's got it going on. He knows what he's talking about. He's
I
authentic."
appreciate that. I appreciate that,
Yeah, we appreciate you, dude. You're fantastic
and I
and
appreciate you too. I
brilliant.
really do. I love you, both of you.
What I love
You know,
about Steve, now that we're putting him on the spotlight, is
Pedestal, please. Come on, put him on a pedestal.
the complete and total innocence in which he does it.
Yeah.
Just complete and total joyous lightness of being flowing through him. There's always a smile in his voice, whether he's talking about serious subjects or not. There's always that smile in his voice, and yeah, and of course, I love the hat.
All right. Thank you.
Thou
I
shalt
do
not
appreciate
covet
it.
thy brother's hat, Lewis.
But love
Yeah,
thy neighbour,
something
no matter
else
what hat.
I really want to bring into our shared awareness is don't believe a single word any of us. Always use discernment. Don't just listen to some dude on YouTube and you'll very seldomly hear me use words like love. I have no clue what love is. Unless love means peaceful joy and presence, then I might understand what love is, but I have no cooking clue what love is. I
Close
really
enough.
don't.
It's
For
close
me,
enough.
peaceful joy.
It's just
So
a word, isn't it? It's just a word. It's
coffee and
love is an
cigarettes.
extension.
Coffee and
Like,
cigarettes is definitely love for me. Convinced.
I love my fags.
Yeah.
Infinite
Yeah,
lightness of being
yeah,
is your description for love, though.
Just a
yeah.
lightness, just a joyous lightness of being. Yeah. Um,
That's it. They're all
what's
words.
vital is whoever's listening is don't believe us, but at least try every now and again. I call it disciplines, and perhaps that's the wrong term, but I call it my disciplines, which started 15 minutes in every morning, and 15 grew to 20, and 20 became an hour.
Mm.
I now do 4 hours every morning from 4 to 8 a.m. before I start my business day. And I push sometimes 10, 12, 16-hour working days. So there's no excuse. Okay, I don't have a family, no kids. But uh, I've got cats too, but they pretty much look, I send them out to go hunt, they bring groceries home. Uh, I urge you do it. For this Jiva character, what was life compared to present moment experiences, universes apart. The anger, the frustration, the vengeance, the constant alertness, looking for any potential, all of that's gone. The
Mm.
people smiling back. Leon spoke about, when you walk with a dog, it almost gives you permission to smile at people, make eye contact. They look back at you. Hey, it look really weird if I walked around with my cat. So stroking the cat, going, you know, it just look weird. So I people smile at this character that never happened before. I connect with people everywhere I go. And I am a loner. I generally keep to myself. I live alone. I spend weekends, weeks, months alone,
Mm.
um, other than the business interaction. But socially, I have a very, very, very quiet, reclusive life. And I used to be suspicious and I didn't trust anybody, didn't trust people, didn't trust the world, look for danger everywhere. Today, I joyously go out and it reflects back at me.
Mm.
I urge you, try it, abide. Forget about reading, forget about learning or understanding more. Read your course daily, but even more than read, because as you read, you learn, you understand, you pile up the concepts. As
Mm.
you abide, you clear the filters,
Sure.
and you have need to learn or absorb anything. It gets cleared for you. Who does it? Holy Spirit, your willingness. That's all it needs. Your willingness to let it go. Your willingness to forgive yourself for dreaming. Your willingness. And how did this happen?
Distillation.
Mm. Yeah.
Distillation from that little willingness. And I think it's brilliant that you brought this up as well, because, Nisargadatta does say to somebody, I think the guy's got like a lot of children and he's got a wife, he's got a job, he's got a house. And as we know with Nisargadatta, he's headed off towards the mountains when he awakened to the nature reality. And then he turned around and went back to the madness of Bombay because he knew for him it wasn't up there in the mountains. So when somebody presents him with this equivalent kind of scenario and says, look, I can't just sit here and shut the world off and try and witness the nature reality through the lens of my so-called separate self. And he's like, no, you can't. He goes, because you've got to feed your children, you've got to feed your wife, you've got to put the roof over your head. And but what he does say to him is, if you actually look in the busyness of your day, in all those interactions, there is a lot of spare time for witnessing. You still go about your business, you still tick all those boxes and meet all of those responsibilities, but there will be a lot of spare, quote unquote, spare time, but there'll be a lot of time that can facilitate this silent observation of the way things are. And we know in A Course in Miracles, that's called forgiveness, this completely passive position from which you look at everything that appears to be happening, whether it appears to be good or appears to be bad, or something appears to be fast or slow or up or down or whatever, and you look on all of it without judging it, and just allowing all things to be exactly as they are. And that is trust. And that trust is based on the fact that you know the power, which we know is love, the infinite lightness of being. It's not coming from the world, it's coming from beyond the world. But then again, with the beautiful thing of the Course, it's like the translation of this horrible place, the world, this is where you could stay trapped in a dream forever and all these horrible things can happen to you. The Course just flips that over and goes, this place is the classroom for forgiveness. So actually, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's got the reflection of heaven in everything here, because what else could light it? Like Steve said earlier, if you look over your shoulder in the cinema, what's coming out the projector room? It's just a beam of pure white light, and we're interpreting that on a screen with characters. Da-da-da. And if you have that viewpoint, that and then you navigate this way of not invalidating experience, your own or other people's, so that the kindness and the compassion is there.
Yes.
Then you can enjoy the experience. You can have a happy dream, as the Course likes to call it, and you become a messenger for God. You become a minister for God. You walk amongst everybody, emitting a light that's in them, that they go, what is that? What is that thing you've got going on? Oh, that's you. You're seeing yourself in me. We're just all a mirror for one another. And you just get the dust off the mirror so someone can see their pure reflection in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right. So amazing. Wow. How lovely was that?
I
Final
enjoyed that
thought.
immensely. I enjoyed that.
Mm.
Final
You could,
thought. I mean, here we are having this conversation. Do either of you remember that we're actually recording this and someone else is going to be watching? I forgot. Having a great conversation where we're remembering self, remembering God, or remembering self to know God.
Mm.
Beautiful. Um, think of our brothers that came before us. They didn't have the access to all the social media and
Mm.
an acceleration. That's why there's a quickening, there's an acceleration. We're
Mm.
accelerating and remembering. It's the most beautiful time to be in this world, regardless of the atrocities that seem to go on and what that president's doing or this country's doing. The world's still a far better place than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have past life memory, which you don't, regardless of how spiritual you think you are and how special you think you don't, unless you go
I
and do a
don't.
regression. You have snippets, little memories. The world was a far worse place 100 years ago. Just imagine 1919, First World War, or
Okay.
1937 to 40, whatever, Second
Mm.
World War. This world's a far better place than ever before. Yes, we got shit, but it's nothing in comparison to what it used to be. Yes, we have corruption. You think there's never been corruption? From the day of Julius Caesar and before. We're lightning. We're lightening up.
Well,
Don't ever get trapped.
in a world
Sorry,
of perfect opposites, there's always going to be conflict.
precisely. Don't ever get
It's
trapped.
always you know.
someone's enlightened and you're not. There is no individual that are enlightened. The individual recognizes the difference between our subjective, objectified reality and has a holy instant, a glimpse into eternity where everything starts to become echoes for eternity. Eternity now here. Don't beat yourself up that you haven't gone far enough, that you still have thoughts of suffering, that life is still struggle. Hey, all of us do. But your willingness to abide in silent stillness, rest as awareness, rest in God, knowing you've never left, and and abide. I'm not talking meditation where you're trying to escape.
Mhm.
Abide, whether you're observing thoughts, not trying to denounce them, not trying to push them away, just observe. Be present here now. Whatever comes up, be aware. Don't resist, don't fight with it, don't go into the story. And your willingness to remember. It took people thousands of years, lifetimes to figure it out. Your willingness to remember. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's it.
willing.
I will to will thy will. Or to shorten that whole sentence, inshallah. That's it.
Says it all.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. What a beautiful place to tie a sweet little bow around that gift to ourselves. And like you said, Lou, because we're consciously not considering what we're doing and where it's going, then it couldn't have a more pure, beautiful energy, because to have all, give all to all.
Simple as that.
So thank you both for another absolutely fantastic conversation. That will
Thank you, my mate.
no doubt put a light step in my walking for the rest of the week until next time.
Okay. Lovely. That was great. I'll see you all next
Thank you,
week.
everybody.
Thank you, my friends. I'll see you. Have a
Take
good
care.
one. And you.
Cheers.